Hi there and welcome to the 18th workout of the 30 days of 30-minute rows. Now do not worry if you're like, 18, I've missed loads, I'm not doing this one. You can just start from here, you can do the rest to 30, you can start all over again, you can do this one and no more. It's entirely up to you. Now in yesterday's workout, I talked about how breaking up a 30-minute row into smaller chunks makes the time go by quicker. But it doesn't have to be big long chunks like 15 minutes times 2 or 10 minutes times 3. You can do things like 5 minutes and then something a little bit interesting, and that's what we're doing today, because we're going to do the majority of today's row at 18 strokes a minute, and your pace is going to be that kind of 5 out of 10 walking upstairs pace, or 2k plus 20 to 22 if that's how you like to row. But after every 5 minutes I want you to do 5 power strokes. That means pushing as hard as you can with your feet and trying to squeeze out as much power with your arms at the back of the stroke too. But just 5 strokes, and then you settle back into that lower pace again. And just by only looking ahead to those 5 minutes, it'll make this row fly by. I promise you. All right, so we have to get into a 4-minute warm-up before we can start our row. So let's get our machine set up. On a concept 2, that means going to your drag factor and setting that to where you want it to be. If you don't know about drag factor, just set it between 4 and 5, okay? Because too low isn't a problem. Too high is when it does become a problem, when you have to heave against the stroke. And that's the way I want you to think about it if you're on a non-concept 2 when it comes to setting the resistance. It's get it so you get a nice feel from the stroke, but you don't have to heave against it, all right? Arr. Next up, set your monitor to eye height if you can, so you don't have to look up and you don't have to look down, both of which will ruin your posture. And finally, set the foot plate height if you can, so that as you come to the front of the machine, your shins are pointing vertically, okay? If you're set too high, that can get a bit tough too. If you're set too low, you go scooting straight past, your backside goes out from underneath you, you lose power, and there's a potential of injury. Not a huge potential, but there's still a potential. So, right. Let's get into this. So 4 minutes, we're going to start at 20 strokes a minute. And for power point of view, I just want you to think about enough of a push from your feet as though you were standing up from a squat, okay? Because we're going to work on the timing between your feet and your hands. So let's go in 3, 2, 1, and we're off. Now that timing is that your feet push into the foot plates at the same time that your hands connect the handle to your machine. So whether that's a Concept 2's flywheel, whether that's a water rower's water wheel, whether that's like just a magnet on your rowing machine, whether it's, who knows what else there is, whether you're in one of those fancy pants indoor like swimming pool things that has a proper boat in it. But quite why you'd be doing that alongside RowAlong if you can afford one of them, who knows. But anyway, but the point is, you push your feet when your hands connect and you feel that you've, connected. Gosh, surely I don't have to explain that. And if you have a forwards tilt and your arms straight, then as you push your feet, when you hold that position for at least half of your leg drive, the power from your legs just goes up through your body and into the machine. And that's how you get the power in. And so just think about pushing a little bit harder now. I want you just to take the exertion up so that it feels as though you were climbing up a set of stairs. So your heart rate starts to climb, your breathing rate starts to climb. So we're talking like Empire State Building kind of stairs, not just the stairs in your house. And this is kind of the exertion you're meant to have in today's row. So you feel like you're working out. It's important that you know that you're exercising, but not so much that you can't hold a conversation or that you feel you can't continue. Okay, 3 more strokes. We'll put 1 foot on the ground. Okay, 1 more. So let's unstrap, 1 foot on the ground, continue rowing, and let that 1 foot that's on the ground be the improvement on your flexibility so that you can get into this shins vertical position at the front of the stroke and your body lean forwards and backwards is nice and open, okay? And fluid, you don't have to round your back or anything. Let's swap feet. So yeah, so where your main pace is going to be 2k plus 20 to 22, or that walking up constant stairs feel. When it comes to those 5 power strokes, I want you to put everything into them, but still at 18 strokes a minute, remember. Okay, that's important. Don't increase stroke rate, just the power. Right, both feet in, tighten your straps, legs straight, and roll with your back and arms. So swing over your back, pull in with your arms, and then push out with your arms, rock forwards with your back. So it's a simple swing, pull, push, rock. Swing, pull, push, rock. But that push of the arms is nice and fluid. Same pace that you brought the handle in at, you let it back out at. Now let's roll to the front of the machine, arms straight, forwards tilt, and press out from the front, holding those arms straight in the forward tilt, okay? Try and avoid the desire to recoil backwards, so don't push too hard, and keep those arms straight, okay? Keep them nice and straight to let that power come through. And then work on that timing between the foot press and your handle connecting to the machine. Last one here. So there we go. So today's row, because it starts off at that 18 strokes a minute, 5 out of 10 effort, 2K plus 20 to 22, it's not that tough. So you shouldn't really need to continue to warm up, because the first 5 minutes of the main row will then continue to help you warm up before those 5 power strokes. So we're about to get into that half-hour row of me doing it a year ago when I originally did these 30 workouts. So I will join you again in 30 minutes time for the cool down and some stretching. Right, there we go, there we are, I'm back again. Not entirely sure what caused that, but a little bit of gaffer tape seems to have fixed it for the time being. Anyway, so what we're doing today is a 30-minute row, and we're going to do this at 18 strokes a minute and round about 2K plus 20 to 22 pace, which keeps that right down at that bottom tier intensity. However, every 5 minutes as a reward for being good, then I want you to do 5 power strokes, which means a good old full-on push from the legs and a good old full-on finish with the arms as well, and then you roll back into the 18 strokes a minute, and then you do it again and again and again. So that 5-minute marker point each time, we're going to do 5 power strokes. All right, just to make things a little bit more fun. And that's it really. So just start, stop, and just make sure and use this time to really focus on your fitness and just let your technique flow and things as you're going through this. So hopefully this is just going to be a nice regenerative recovery row after yesterday's really tough top tier, and then tomorrow's going to be a mid tier as well. So, and we're within, if you're doing this within the 30 days of 30-minute workouts, then you could just do with having that little bit of a less intensity row, okay? And without it being too like, oh, let's throw in a 30-second sprint and stuff. It's like, actually, just these 5 power strokes will be enough to keep it interesting. Shall I stop yammering at you and shall we just start rowing together? That's a good idea. Right, so here we go then, 18 strokes a minute at 2K plus 20 to 22 pace. In 3, 2, 1, let's go. I quite like, especially with the 20 to 22 kind of bracket, I quite like just falling into 18 strokes a minute, and wherever my legs kind of feel they want to push out, that's the pace I'm going to stick with. So after 9 strokes, 30 seconds gone, it seems like my legs are wanting to row this at 2K plus 20 today. Although I did just drop to 21, there we go. So let's just hold 2K plus 20. Remember, on sessions like this, it doesn't really matter too much if you drop off a couple of seconds as we go through the workout. What matters more is if you get a bit over eager and speed up too much and start to shift the emphasis or the intensity, more like, of this row towards a mid intensity on my pyramid. All depends. I mean, there's so many different ways to gauge your workout. There's doing it this way. There's basing it on heart rate zones. There's literally capping your heart rate using something like the Maffetone system. But really, all of the systems are just trying to give you a balance between building your fitness and your performance. So today's session is really about building your fitness. I mentioned once or twice over these 30 days, 18 so far, of workouts that I look at your available energy like a big bowl of power. I started to describe it like a clay bowl being formed, kind of like that scene in Ghost. And every time you do a session like this, that bowl gets bigger and it contains more power, more energy. As you get fitter, you have more fuel for your workouts. So that's what today is about. It's about giving you a bigger bowl of fuel, of power. And then the mid-tier and top tier are more about how you use that fuel. But the important part is to make sure to return to sessions like this to help that bowl of power refill after an intense workout. So yesterday was a top tier. That drained my bowl of power. And then although it refilled quite far after a good amount of food and sleep, this session today will fill it back to the top and hopefully give me a little bit more power too. Okay, in 3 strokes time, we're doing 5 power strokes. Now remember, it comes from the legs. Last one. Here we go. 5 strokes. Push with the feet. Push with the legs. So push that machine away from you. Keep your arms straight. Forward lean. And then push. There you go. That's 5, isn't it? If I miscounted, hopefully you managed it. And that's the big technique thing that most new rowers need to try to learn, is that your power comes from your leg drive, from pushing your feet into the machine. And that's why I was so big on talking about making sure your shins are vertical as you come forwards, and talking about the timing of that connection between your legs and your hands. Because as much as I'm saying the power comes from the legs, it has to get into the machine, like I said. So there's no point having a huge powerful push with your legs, if you don't connect that push to your hands and the hands to the handle. Because if I push too soon, what happens is my backside ends up at the back of the machine. My body lunges forwards as my hands are left behind, and my power dropped about 7 seconds, even though I was putting in the same amount of push from my legs, because I completely missed that connection. So really do think about snapping in feet and hands together. And to be honest, this is one of those do as I say, not as I do moments, because I still have a tiny, well, I hope it's tiny, leak at the front of the machine where, for whatever reason, it's like I come in and there's a swing or a release of my backside that happens, and it just goes away from underneath me. I'll try to analyze that in one of the upcoming form check Fridays, so I can show you what I'm on about. If you don't know what I'm on about form check Fridays, every Friday I take a look at a video of somebody rowing and then say what works about it, or say what doesn't work about it, and what people could do to improve their technique if they were in a similar position. And I'll also look at some really fast rowers and talk about their technique too. So it's not just gym monkeys like you and me that we're looking at. All right, 4 strokes to go, and then we'll hit the next power strokes. One more. Here we go. Push with the legs. Okay, so the power comes from the legs. 3, 4, 5. And what you should have felt is that if you have that forward tilt over your hips and your arms are straight as you push with the legs, you should have felt that the tension, the force on the handle as you push with your legs increases when you go for the power strokes. But as long as you don't have your resistance or drag factor set too high, I'm not saying resistance is drag factor, by the way. Hopefully I left enough of a gap there. As long as it's not, or the weight of your machine isn't too heavy, you still shouldn't feel like you have to grab and pull early. That extra force
that you feel as you push harder with your feet should just make the machine go faster. It's one of these odd things to try and describe to someone. That's why I've started to liken it to what it's like when you hang off a pull-up bar. When you hold on to a pull-up bar and your feet are off the ground, you're not pulling on that bar. You're just hanging off it. And that's keeping you off the ground. And so then, when you push harder with your feet in rowing, that hang feels a little bit more powerful, more tension in it, as though someone is just strapped a 10 kilogram weight plate to you. And that hang off the pull-up bar now feels a little bit more forceful. But you don't have to bend your arms in that position in order to be able to take the extra weight of that hang. You just keep your arms straight and you just hang there until basically, eventually, this analogy wears out around about the same time your muscles wear out. But hopefully you get what I mean. So, as you push with your feet, with straight arms, you just feel as though you're hanging from a pull-up bar. And then, only at the back of the stroke, do you finally pull yourself up, if you get what I mean, to finish the stroke. Mixing terminologies there, but hopefully you understand. Right, 6 strokes to go. And then we'll get into our third power strokes. So, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Power strokes. Push with the feet. Nice, straight arms. Forward lean. Push. One more. Good job. And then the forward lean, well, that has 2 purposes. The first one is that it helps that power from your legs just travel up through your body and into your shoulders, into your arms, uninterrupted. Because if you are like this, as you drive, you're suddenly taking it through your lower back, fighting against the power. So let me catch up a bit. There we go. But the other thing is that as you swing your body from a forward lean to a backward lean, you add in power. So say your legs add in, say, I can throw out random numbers, okay? 100 watts of power. So push from your legs. Then, as you swing your body from a forward lean to a backward lean, remembering you're still connected to the handle, that adds in an extra 40 watts of power. 40 watts that if you rode like this, with your back vertical or worse, leaning backwards, you don't get those 40 watts because your back's already leaning backwards. And then, because your arms are straight at the front, not fighting with the leg power, when you start your backswing and then pull in with your arms add in like another 20 watts worth of power. So you go 150-20, 150-20 if you take my numbers with a pinch of salt. And if you grab the handle early, then not only can you not put in that power from the legs because you're fighting the power with your biceps, but you also kind of lose that extra surge at the back of the stroke. So your legs, which might have been capable of outputting 100 watts, are now only putting out 80 watts. And your arms, which were finishing strong with 20 watts, are now really only giving you 10 watts. And then if you throw in a poor backswing as well, then you've gone down to a possible, or from a possible 170 to 90. All because your body position isn't quite right as you drive and swing with your back and pull in with your arms. Ooh. Okay, 3 strokes to go. 2 more. Last one, and then power strokes. You ready? Here we go. Push. So hold that forward lean. Push. Keep those arms straight. Push. Only pull at the back of the stroke. Pull, push. No, other way around. Push, pull. I should just give up. Start back into normal pace. Oh, good grief, John, you were doing so well. Again, if I was of the tall persuasion or the equine persuasion, or even if I was Cameron Buchan, I'd probably edit all of that out. But not gonna. And if you wonder why I named Cameron but not the other two, he's a fellow Scot, good to support him. Great videos, worthwhile checking his stuff out. I mean, as well as me, not instead of me. He's a super powerful rower. One of his videos has him at, I think it was 5:45 for his 2K. So, a great guy to watch. and aspire to, but like I always say about watching people who are possibly a lot faster than you use their status, is that the right word? Capability to inspire you, because they prove that such things exist as a 5:45 2K. But if you use them as motivation, quite quickly it can go the other way around. I mean, if I was to look at someone rowing a 5:45 2K and say, that's my goal, that's what I want to be able to do, then within, I don't know, I'd say 3 months, I'd really quickly realise that for me, that's never going to happen. And that's if I was kind of going without the knowledge I already have. That's what I mean. Because as a guy in his mid-40s and a lightweight at only 5'11"-ish, it's never on the cards for me. I don't think it would have been on the cards even when I was in my 20s if I trained every day as a rower. I don't have the build to be that fast. And once you realize that, if you set your motivation unrealistically, then it can really damage your motivation to row. Whereas if you take someone rowing that fast as inspiration, but then just set your sights on micro goals. So if my 2K was 7 minutes and 5 seconds, my real goal would just to be sub 7. And then possibly under 6:55, 6:50, 6:45. Small goals. And that way, you can see them and they're not unachievable. Okay. 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Power. Push with the legs. Arms straight. Swing over your hips halfway through the leg drive. Swing. And then pull at the end. Pull. All done. Now, with 17 seconds to go on the clock, that's time for 5 more power strokes. So, although it breaks the 5 minutes rule on today's row, it does mean you get in an extra set of 5 strokes. And talking of motivation, you'll be, or maybe not unsurprised, but it is funny how you can squeeze a little bit more power out when taken by surprise. Like if I was rowing this session and you're starting to feel a little bit fatigued and you're looking at 3.5 minutes to go and thinking, oh, I'm quite pleased it's going to be over. I can just about manage this rate and pace until the end, yeah. But then, I suddenly throw at you that the last minute we're gonna sprint. Don't worry, we're not gonna, I'm just using this as an example. But then suddenly you're having to pull yourself up, energize yourself, almost get that adrenaline running to be prepared for that big sprint at the end. Because it's easy to just almost circle the bowl of power and tell yourself that, oh, I'm getting tired and all that stuff. But then when someone comes along and says, right, let's sprint, let's have a race, something like that, then you get energy and power that you were not letting come in because you were too busy circling that to the bottom of the bowl of power. It's not quite as applicable in a role like this, because you should have loads and loads and loads of fitness that you shouldn't need to stop once we get to 30 minutes done. This should only have used a maximum of half of your bowl of power. But if this was like a 6 times 5 minute tempo row at 2K plus 8 pace, you would be on the ragged edge a bit and starting to feel like, oh, this is getting a bit much. But then when someone says, right, once you're done, that last minute sprint, it's easy to just open your eyes and go for it. And that's what you need at the end of like a 2K or a 5 or a 10 or 30 minute, is to still be able to have that sprint in you at the very end, no matter how tired you're telling yourself you are. Okay, power strokes coming up now. Power 5, power 4, power 3, power 2, last one, power 1. Whew. So, bit of a meandering chat today between technique and motivation and stuff, but hopefully, and also gotta fix this microphone. Don't know what's wrong with you. It's always microphone issues I have. It's always the sound department. The camera department hardly ever lets me down, but sound department does.
So I hope you enjoyed that row. I know I did. It kind of warmed me up. It's freezing cold in the studio. That's why I've still got the hoodie on. But it was a great row. Those 5 power strokes really do kind of break up that half-hour row, because you're only ever looking forward those 5 minutes. You're not looking at that whole half hour. So shall we get into a 2-minute cool down? You shouldn't need that long between the warm up and the cool down. Hopefully you managed to kind of sort yourself out, have a quick drink, wiggle your backside, make sure you're nice and comfortable, and then we'll get into this 2-minute cool down, and then we'll do a little bit of stretching at the end, okay? So here we go then. In 3, 2, 1, let's go. So we'll do this run about 20 strokes a minute again, pretty much actually the same pace you were doing the warm up at. So just enough of a pace that you're going a little bit easier than you were doing the main row at just then, in terms of your perceived exertion, because you're just wanting to kind of, I'm trying to think of a good phrase for it. I keep on saying slide into neutral, but that doesn't mean anything. You're literally just letting things cool down. You've been nice and warm and working hard, and rather than just stopping and everything going, oh, we're done now, you use this as a graduation
that you're gradually cooling down. Your heart rate will have dropped quite a lot between the end of the row and starting this cool down. And then this cool down should kind of just hit you at kind of stasis for that heart rate through this 2 minutes. Almost hits pause on it from dropping too far. And so it sits around on this little ledge for 2 minutes, and then it can cool down to the resting heart rate after this. It gives your muscles a chance to just flush themselves out and straighten themselves off, and gives you a chance to just kind of consolidate technique, anything that maybe you've been working on in that main row. Maybe it was trying to hold this forwards tilt and straight arms, and so now that the exertion is a little bit less, you can really think about that rather than trying to hold a specific pace. Okay, 2 more strokes. 1 more. Oh, I'm still not warmed up. I should start getting like a warm bath before I come out. Then you just see steam coming off me. So I'm done with the cool down. You of course can keep on cooling down. You don't have to stop just because I have. However, I'm about to enter the stretching section. Now, if you don't have time to stretch, please at least stretch your quads, your hamstrings, and if you have time, your glutes as well, okay? Because if you're rowing properly, they take the lion's share of the work when you're rowing, okay? Or you can, sorry, didn't say it. You hold on a minute. If you are going to stretch, don't do it in the shower, okay? I don't want you to slip and fall over, okay? Right, can play him again. There he goes. So, Stretchy John is going to take you through some guided stretching if you have access to a stretching mat, and I will take you through some guided stretching on the machine, okay? If you don't have room for a stretching mat. So, put your feet back in the foot plates, but keep the straps loose. Brace your feet against them, legs nice and straight. Put your hands up in the air and fold forwards, okay? And if you get that fold right, if you get the kind of that hinging feeling between as you come forwards, you should find you get that nice stretch in the front. Please try and resist the urge on this stretch, especially because you're slightly pitched down anyway. Resist the urge to kind of grab onto your ankles and pull yourself forwards, or to grab onto your toes and pull yourself forwards. There's a time and place for that stretch, and this isn't it, okay? This is definitely one that's all about just folding yourself forwards, okay? And you get that stretch right into your hamstrings, right? So move on to glutes next. One leg up onto the rail. Bring the other foot across onto your knee so that your heel is in the crook of your knee. Bring that knee across your body so it's in a straight line between your face, knee, foot. Hold it in place with one arm. Hold on to the back of the machine for stability if you wish, and then rotate round, okay? And that rotation of your upper body, especially if you kind of put a little bit of focus downwards into your backside, into your glutes, you should get a nice stretch there. I can feel like my whole that backside area basically, and like that kind of stretchy sensation. There's only really one way to describe it as a stretching sensation, because it's not like pain. It's not like, it doesn't feel like it's effort as though you're working out. You can feel that kind of, it's not like a burn. I'm trying to think of a like surge. It's not either a way to describe a stretch, that sensation of, because it's yeah. It's answers in the postcard. Right, here we go. Let's change legs. So exact same thing, but other leg, and rotate round. Pressure? No, it's not really that. I remember when my wife was preparing, let's say, for the birth of our first child. She was very clear to the midwife to describe everything as pressure and not pain. It's like, when you start to feel pressure, then you can do this and whatever. Because she was dead against the thought of what you go through in childbirth being pain. It's like, pain is something you fight against and you try to stop and you don't work with. It's like this, it's frightening. Whereas pressure, albeit maybe understating what a woman goes through in childbirth, don't worry,
But from a mindset point of view, pressure, as intense as it is, you can deal with. Pain as something to fear. So that was Julie's point of view. So that's why I don't talk about pressure for that. Sorry. I don't want to be mansplaining this kind of stuff because I have absolutely no right to be talking about childbirth stuff. Okay, let's do quads next. So you rest a hand on the monitor for stability if you wish, which I always do because I tend to fall over at this point. Flick your leg up behind you so that your heel is touching your backside. And then again, put on a nice little pull back of your leg, or backwards with your leg holding onto your upper foot, and that should create that stretching sensation again in your quads. Now that's the big meaty muscle on the front of your leg. It's not up at the high part, not up. Whoa, I was going to fall. I meant that because I'm going to change legs. Honest. It's not up here in the hip flexor. What's gone wrong with my balance today? It's because it's so cold, I promise you. It's not up here in the hip flexor, it's down here in the quads. I can definitely feel that this muscle up here is, inverted commas, loose. It's not being kind of activated and stretched, it's just there. It's obviously tighter than loose, but it's not like my quads, which are stretching because of this action of pulling back on my legs. So it's really important that you're not stretching your hip flexor at that point, that you get your quads, because we're going to do hip flexors next. So put one knee on the ground. For that one, your toes on your other foot are up against the ground. If you see what you can see what I mean. I've lost the ability to speak about my heel and my toes. Your front leg, your foot is forwards, your knee is above it, so you've got 90-degree angles on both legs. And then with a good posture, just push that hip forwards. You're sending this hip almost like in a straight line, okay? So you're not like with the hamstring stretch where you're folding yourself down. This is the complete opposite. This time you just want to push your hip forward and keep your upper body nice with a nice posture, okay? And this is what will help you with the stretch into the hip flexor, because if you do lean forwards like this, I've completely lost. I'm getting nothing. I'm getting kind of like pressure into my front leg, but nothing else. And this stretch is meant to be up here for your hip flexors. Okay, so if you want to stretch your hip flexor, stretch your hip flexor. Okay, so let's change legs, do exactly the same thing. Okay, so nice posture, push that hip forwards. Okay, and again, they would have taken from today's row, between the fact that it was that low rate that you get the chance to concentrate on, but then with those 5 power strokes, your hip flexors, your glutes, your hamstrings, your quads will all have taken like all the brunt of today's work through there, hopefully. I mean, again, if you've got sore biceps and forearms, your technique's probably in need of some work. Right, let's move on to those forearms. Okay, so put your hands together in front of your face, push them together, and then down in front of your body so that your forearms are parallel to the ground and your fingers are at a nice 90-degree angle to those forearms, okay? And this will give you a nice stretch underneath your wrists, kind of underneath your forearms, and through your fingers as well. So it's a nice way to kind of finish off. What was I doing yesterday? Farmer carries. It's where you kind of, I was holding 2 24-kilogram kettlebells. God, I completely lost the name of them then. Kettlebells, one in each hand, and then kind of walking. So the whole point is 200 meters of walking. And when you're walking with that kind of weight in your hands, you know, like this at the end, going, oh, I can't move my fingers. And so I was doing this stretch to get into like that forearm part and my fingers that were getting. So it's exactly the same feeling as the row when you're walking like that. That kind of, if you're doing it wrong. If you're doing the row wrong, it's the same as doing the farmer carry right. Does that make sense? Okay, let's do our shoulders. Hands straight out in front of you. Bring your arm across your body, nice and straight. Hook your other arm around it to just help with that little bit of a force against your body so you're getting a good stretch to your shoulders, okay? Yeah, sorry. See, sometimes I go down, I start talking about something, go down this kind of blind alleyway, and then I suddenly open my eyes and go, actually, I'm talking rubbish. This has got nothing to do with rowing. So yeah, so the farmer's carry hurts just from kind of walking around with these kettlebells. The pain you get from doing that is a pain you don't want in rowing. If you get the same feeling through your forearms and stuff, it's because you're kind of pulling against it. And I guess it's because of the bounce as you're walking. With I'll change the arms and I'll demonstrate again. But as you're walking, especially if you're trying to do it at pace, with these kettlebells in your hand, there's a kind of a bounce to them as you're walking from step to step. And I think that bounce is the same is if you did an early pull on the rowing stroke. So I've talked before about how you come on with straight arms and you don't want to do like an early pull, okay? You drive with your legs and then you pull fully at the back. And I think that walking with kettlebells, as much as I've got my arms straight, for each step, I think there's that little kind of bounce, and that's what then gets me. So it feels the same. So at least it's a good indicator. I know if I feel that when I'm rowing, I'm doing it wrong. So let's do biceps next. So hands behind you as though you are flying. You're one of the Red Bull people. They've not been in touch to ask about sponsorship. I'm so disappointed. And then rotate your thumbs outwards. Okay, so this kind of stretches out it stretches lengthens, that's the word I'm looking for. Should have a dictionary in front of me, make life easier. Lengthens the long head of your bicep, and that then gives it a nice stretch. But at the same time, it contracts your triceps, which is why I do the triceps last, because it gives them a chance to open up. But that rotation of the thumbs is key here, and it's probably good for the wrist as well. Although, yeah. Right, what did I say? Oh yeah, triceps. Oh, good grief. Triceratops, no, triceps. So let's do triceps as the last thing. So hand up in the air, bring it down your back, or into your hood in my case, I'll do that, yeah. And then your elbow is pointing slightly up in the air, but then use your other arm to help it all the way so that it's pointing straight up in the air. And then if you want to have a slight lean to the side, that will help you stretch your lats and your obliques if they are tight. Now, I've been doing this. I started doing this last week after I'd done a really tough session that really hit my lats and it was really sore. Now I feel nothing when I do that. So it just shows either that the stretching has helped, has changed arms, or that it was only as a cause of the workouts I was doing that at the time that I had tight lats. It was nothing to do with the rowing. Something triceps still feel very tight. Doing this, you can still feel that kind of stretchy burn. What is the word for that? The sensation. It's almost like a sting, but again, that's negative. I don't want it to be a negative connotation. A zing, is that better? Yeah, muscle zing. Would you call that for a stretch? Or as a stretch, I get that good stretching zing feel. Yeah, and that could be today's hashtag. Okay, let's try and proliferate that across the fitness community. They'd be like, what? Yeah, so hashtag zing, Z-I-N-G, okay? Or you can even put stretchy zing. You can put zing, 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 whatever you want. But just to let me know you got this far through the video and you put up with this rather rambly stretching session, you can use the hashtag zing as you're posting how you got on with this, either whether it's a comment on this video or whether it's on the Facebook page or whether it's in a reply to the Instagram posts or Twitter posts that I do about these. Who knows, just get in touch, let me know you're out there. Because after all, I keep on making these because I look and go, oh look, a few people have watched this and I'm hoping it's helped you. So I will continue to make them while anybody watches them. Even if I got 2 views in a video, I know that still 2 people out there have watched it and it's hopefully helped. Okay, if I start getting 0 views, I might stop. But yeah, let's hope that point never happens. So I will see you regardless, because we've got to make 30 of these. I'll see you in row 19 if that's where you're headed next. Or maybe you're going to go and look around at the rest of my channel at some of my other workouts or technique tips or app reviews or other rambling nonsense that I have here. It's not nonsense, it's all TV gold, I tell you. So until one of my other videos, that's all that's left to say is goodbye, really. So take care of yourselves, be well, bye-bye.